Greetings everyone, and welcome. This is the start of a new series that I would like to begin. Now, what is this series going to be about? It's quite simple. I'm going to choose a topic and I'm going to talk about it for 20-30 minutes maybe. I don't exactly know for how long. Today, we are going to be talking about murder drones. So, let us begin, because I suck at intros and I want to start as soon as possible. Now, before we actually begin, I would like to add a little disclaimer, mainly because I'm not going to be talking about the actual story of the show. I'm going to be talking about none other than the character designs. The main reason for that being, I don't really understand the story, like at all, yet. I do understand it, just not completely, not well enough to talk about it. And therefore, I would like to talk about something that I do understand, those being the character designs. So, yes, let's get into it, shall we? Now, first up on the chopping block, we have two side characters, Lizzie and Fad. Now, what can I tell you about their designs? Nothing too special, really. Honestly, they are both quite fine. Nothing extremely interesting, but the designs tell you a good bit about the characters without you actually having to be told who they are. I mean, just by looking at Tad, you can easily guess that he's one of the cool guys, that the dude oozes testosterone, and yeah, it's a pretty simple guess to make. Lizzie's design is a little bit better than his, mainly because of those weird cat ear things that she has, which differentiate her from a lot of the other female drones. Is it even a thing? Do female drones really exist? Do drones have genders? I'm getting confused. Whatever, it does not really matter. What does matter, however, is their eye colors, which are both quite radical. No other characters actually have them, while some of the other background characters do have very similar eye colors. In some cases, they are basically the same. Of course, Lizzie's are very pink and Fad's are green. Now, Fad's aren't that unique, but Lizzie's are. And when it comes to their promenading dresses or suits, in the case of Tad, those are not really special at all. Quite normal prom dresses and suits. So yes. And now I would like to move on to the next two, who are going to be Uzi and Dole. And oh boy, do we have a lot more to talk about when it comes to Dole and Uzi. Mainly because their designs have a lot more thought put into them. From the exact same hair color, like it's basically the same, all the way into how they both have very big connections to the overarching plot and basically everything in between. So let us begin, shall we? Now, the main thing that separates the two are their clothes. Dole wears the same thing that Lizzie wears, except for the head thing, of course, but she is still very much separated from the rest of the drones, mainly because of her very long hair that no other drone really has, except maybe Jay, but I can't really tell you about that because we haven't gotten to Jay yet, so I don't know who that is for video reasons. Uzi is much more interesting than even Dole herself, mainly because while everyone has kind of a standard school uniform in the show, she just decides not to have one, which is very in character, to be honest. But the main thing that really separates these two characters from the rest are their eye colors. No one has purple, and definitely no one has the same orange that Doll has. Now, of course, the reason for this are probably their mothers, Nori and Yeva, which I also want to talk about, mainly because Doll herself actually has a very big similarity to Yeva by the end of episode 4, I think. You know, when she gets shot in the back of the head. She starts to wear this little bandage covering her right eye. And that's quite interesting considering Yeva herself also has a broken right eye, at least in the one singular image we see of her. So, all in all, these two designs are much more interesting and prevalent than the past two. However, they are still not the highlights of the show. I would give that to the next around 8 character designs that I will have to talk about. So, I would like to get into those now. And from those 8 characters, I would have liked to start out with J and V. However, I realized that I would have a lot to talk about with V. Therefore, I am instead going to start out with J and N. Now, I don't really have too much to say about their disassembly drone designs. The design hot takes will start to come in as I talk about their made designs, as those have quite a big amount of connections to their disassembly drone designs, mainly in how much they each change. However, before getting into that, I will need to find the pictures, so give me a second. And now that I have found everyone, I can freely talk about them. First of all, I would like to note that N also has a beanie, like almost everyone else does, at least in his worker drone design. That beanie of course gets replaced by his pilot hat, or yeah, I know it's that. It's still weird though. However, outside of that, not too many things change, with his design at least. The big thing with Jade is of course she loses that skirt thing, but that is expected. You can't really murder and look intimidating with that thing, right? However, she also loses that flower crown on her head. So that's a thing, I guess. I do believe this does have some significance, as Jay is the one who changes the least out of all of the main cast once she becomes a disassembly drone. I mean, she can suck up to corporate as a worker drone and also as a disassembly one, so I guess she didn't really need to do anything at that point. However, N does change a little more, since, well, of course, you can't really be just a simple nice guy if you are going to be going around and killing people. With that being said, he still does it. Like, he still does it. So, I don't think he really got the memo on that one. However, now I would like to continue on to Sin and Tessa, and oh boy do I have a lot to talk about with those two. And from the two of them, I would first like to talk about Sin. Now, Sin is a very interesting character design. Mainly, not even because of her actual character design. It's rather the things that kind of come with it. But I would consider movement a part of character design. I would, even if some other people would not. Mainly her regular outfit is just normal, it's the same as any other female maid outfit in the show, at least as of now. However, the thing that really distinguishes her is her movement. She moves in a really, really very weird and janky way, which is cool. It's strange, because almost every character in this show moves the same way, except for her. And that is certainly fascinating. I do think that it's amazing, since she moves like a doll being puppeted. Really cool idea and amazing execution. Now, the other big design feature she has is the bow on the back of her head, which is pretty cool, but I'll tell you the reason after I cover the next character, Tessa. And with Tessa, firstly, her character design before falling onto Copper 9. Oh well, landing? She's the only one who lands and not falls, you know. And the only real big feature on her is that bow. So it really makes me question one thing. That thing of course being, is this Tessa? Or is it also Sin? You see, I don't know. And I think that's kind of amazing. Mainly that is because both of their main design feature is the bow. And character personality wise, Sin copies Tessa. Therefore, you can't do a definite analysis and say that this is Tessa. You can only say probably is. And probably isn't enough. I do think this is quite a clever little design decision, mainly because, well, if there wouldn't have been for that bow, you could never even guess that this was Tessa without her telling you. But the fact that they put it on both characters, and since regular Tessa's design is fully black, as it is a silhouette because that's how drones see humans, and Sin's bow is also fully black just because it is, and also probably because she also copied Tessa on that, who knows. It really creates for this interesting mystery. So, well done, Murder Nose. Well done. And then now, let's move on to V. Now, V. Why did I leave her last? Well, there's a pretty good reason for that. That being, she's probably the one from the main 3 disassembly drones that remembers the most. We can't be sure since we don't know how much Jay actually remembered, but it's a pretty safe bet. And even though she does remember the most, she still changes the most. And that would usually be pretty weird. However, for her it does make sense. Maybe wanting to hide from everything. Or just wanting to forget the past. Who knows. However, that is very well reflected on her design. For one, she loses her little beanie that she used to have when she was a maiden. Now, almost every character does have a beanie. However, she decides to give it up. I guess to be unique, who knows. I mean, Jay is the only one with pigtails, so there could be that. I don't fully know. However, the other thing she loses are her glasses, which I'm pretty sure she does need in order to see, but maybe she's too badass to actually care about them. But both of these do show that she is distancing herself from her past, and that is reflected on her design very, very well, and of course on her character as well. The personality that she has before she becomes a disassembly drone is completely different from the one she has after becoming one. Really nice and neat little details right there. Very cool. And now to the bitter part. That part sadly being the background characters. Now, there isn't really a problem with them. As a design, they're fine. Except, they all look the same. I can't tell them apart. I'm trying so hard. I mean, I know that guy, like... Where is he? Wait, right there. Yeah, right there. He's the guy whose head gets on fire by Uzi, I think. And I know who the other two are as well. But these are major background characters. One that gets killed, Uzi's teacher, I think. And the one whose head is on fire. And of course everyone knows him. But Let me give you another example. Look at this. Can you tell who anyone is right here? Because I can't. I can't tell anything. I don't know at all. So, that's a little bit of the weakness of the show. Of course, the main reason for this is probably because this is an independent creation. They don't have too much money to spend on even the background characters. However, that sadly will not affect the show's final score in any good way, as I'm still gonna rate it as it was a full television series. But this being the biggest problem is still a pretty big achievement with what they have, which is not too much, except I guess in passion. They have a ton of passion, so there's that. Lastly, the show gets an 8.5 out of 10, and mainly because of the background characters. Other than that, it's pretty great. I actually think it's one of the best. However, with that being said, my favorite character is V, N is best boy, Sin I think is the best design, and I do believe that the best ship in the show, actually no, I'm just right, is JX Corporate. Goodbye everyone.